Do you want to say action, Lincoln? Just a second. You say action? Are we rolling? Okay, ready? The Renegade Accelerator is open for enrollment. Female leaders, executives, founders who are asking themselves, why not now? This is for you. Head to renegadeaccelerator.com. I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now Show. We have one of my favorite humans on the podcast today, an original renegade, Georgia Sapounas. She is the vice president of innovation and digital at the Cleveland Cavaliers, but that doesn't define her at all. Wait till you hear her story. She lives her life redreaming and redreaming because she goes and she does the thing. She's traveled the world, and her stories are unmatched. What I love about Georgia is her spirit, and you'll get to hear and feel and see that today. But so many lessons baked into this specific conversation, from her time becoming an athlete at age 4 to a 4-time national gold medalist to a 2-time world bronze medalist, and then going on to work for the Canadian Olympic Committee and run digital, then traveling the world, then working for the Cleveland Cavaliers and everything in between, while she's also an artist and an amazing friend, an amazing leader and renegade. So without further ado, here is my friend, Georgia. Georgia, welcome to Austin.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited about this conversation because we have years of just navigating life, I think, together, and also you've got quite the story. So in the spirit of why not now, can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you had to ask yourself, why not now? We'll bridge that delta from idea to action.
Absolutely. So rewind the clock to February 2020. I had decided a few months earlier that I was going to set out and travel the world for a year.
I remember this. I remember sitting, and this seemed like such a stretch goal at the first Renegade, and you did it.
Mm-hmm. So I spent my first month in Taiwan, and it was month 2, and I was in Bali. And my vision was to travel the world for the rest of the year. Keep in mind, this is 2020. And I didn't know what I didn't know about what was ahead. And I started interviewing for a job at the Cleveland Cavaliers in February. The interviews were in the middle of the night because of the time difference, unbeknownst to them. And fast forward, was offered the position, and I had this decision to make. And it was, am I going to continue traveling the world for the year, as I set out to do, or am I going to take this job, move countries?
Because you're from Canada.
That's right. Living in Toronto at the time.
Yep.
My condo is still there.
But you always want to live in the States.
Always wanted to live and work in the States.
We've got our pros and cons ledger here. Mm-hmm. It's February.
Yeah.
March is when really, okay, there's a lot of data.
Mm-hmm. And so at that point, I was really toying with, do I take this job, move to the States, and, really buckle down and work.
Stop your global world trip for the year.
Mm-hmm. Or do I keep traveling the world? And when you look at that, you kind of think, if you plan to travel the world, there will be other jobs, there'll be other things that come up. But my gut feeling was so strong to take the job. And it was my head that kept going, that's a wild decision. You're sitting in Bali right now,
Yeah.
You could go wherever you want next.
And you had to orchestrate setting yourself up for this year, right? So it didn't just I want to do it, and you went and did it. I remember you planning, where can I be that I can work and get the right Wi-Fi and do what you were doing. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we'll dip into that in a second, because I'm sure inquiring minds want to know how that logistically went down. But back to your decision.
Took the job. I listened to my gut feeling, and there's really a lot of power in surrendering to what life puts in front of you and going with that and flowing with that versus what you have planned and exactly the direction you think it's going to go.
So you take the job and you're in
I'm in Bali.
Bali at the
I take
time.
the job. I negotiate a later start date so I can go to 2 more countries.
Not knowing there's a global pandemic coming in a couple weeks.
No. Mm-mm. So I booked all the rest of my trips in terms of the flights.
I remember.
Went to Australia, went to New Zealand, drove through the South Island of New Zealand solo. I have to go back. It's outstanding.
Everybody watching has to go look at Georgia's Instagram and scroll to see these sites too. Oh my gosh.
Unreal. And so the day that I flew home, which I'm so thankful I had that flight already booked, because I showed up at the airport trying to upgrade to the next section of the flight with my points. And she goes, "You're lucky to even be on this flight. Every seat is full." That day was the day the border closed between Canada and the U.S. And that was the day I was flying from Auckland
Australia
to Toronto. Mm-hmm. From New Zealand, Auckland.
Or from New Zealand, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to backtrack in a moment to tell more of your story, but you landed, I remember watching you in your condo and you had this beautiful view, but you got there, but then you couldn't, you didn't have any food at your place or you had to quarantine, right?
Yeah. Quarantine for 2 weeks. I have an incredible community in Toronto, and through Instagram alone, people saw my stopover was San Francisco, and there were 4 flights that were canceled before I got on that, flight to Toronto. And the total trip was 36 hours, supposed to be about 24, 26. And during that time, via Instagram, we were orchestrating the who's dropping off groceries. And it was led by my friends in my community. Somebody's dropping off supplements.
I remember, Georgia's groceries are being delivered.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then you ended up, you're working for the Cavs, but you didn't actually show up ever in Cleveland until
a year and a half
later. You meet your team because Canada was in a different rule book, right? Like you had a few different guidelines up there.
Yeah, very intense lockdown. And so the Cavs mailed me my laptop and phone to Toronto and said, we know you've been traveling, maybe it's 2 weeks and then come down here. And I go, okay, yeah, sounds good. And it was a year and a half later.
Okay. So, and then I remember, Georgia, this view that you had at your condo of looking out, but you could also see these other high rises. And you'd wave to people, right?
That's right. Yes.
It was like a game. And that was your ability to connect with other people in the world.
That's right. That's right. Because I was living solo in my condo in Toronto. And I would see right into, because it's kind of like they're right across the street at the same level as you, right? So it's not that far away. And you would kind of see, okay, that person is really lounging. I guess they're not working now.
They were like characters in the story.
Yeah. This guy's doing his workout at noon every day. Yep. This one's tanning shirtless on his balcony. Nicknames for all of them.
You're trying to figure out how you're going to pass your time other than painting your nails. You're an artist. So let's go back because, first of all, let's just talk about your personal brand for a second. I don't know if I've ever met anyone that has more of a strong whisper brand than you. Maybe my mom, you and my mom are up there, but you're just incredible as a human, but also you have a true renegade spirit. And let's take a movie trailer through your life. And I just have to share, I just found this in my closet, this Cleveland Shaquille jersey from when Shaquille was a client. And we have to touch on the Cavs for sure here soon. But we go back so far from the social media channels. But your story, let's start and give us kind of the play-by-play high points because it's incredible. Georgia's an Olympian, basically, and then the sports journey is incredible too. Where do you want to start? Movie trailer.
Yeah, so 4 years old is when I decided I was going to skate at the highest level. And fast forward, at 16 is when I made the national team. And I skated on the national team from 16 to 24. Did that while going to university. Went to the University of Toronto. Met an incredible community while there.
And with national team, I always say, you then worked for the Olympic Committee too, but it's when you started at age 4, we were talking about this earlier, you would watch, right? Like you were kind of, you saw that visual of you. This is 4. I can't even get my mind around that.
Oh, yeah. I decided at 4 that that's what I was going to do. And it was, my brother was in the Learn to Skate program in Ontario. And he started before me, and I was just kind of eyes on the glass watching at 3 years old, saying like, Mom, I want to do that too. I want to go do that. And it was actually, you're supposed to be 5 at the time.
Renegade mom.
Yeah, but I was tall for my age, and so a little fib there. But at 4, she signed me up, and off I went. And I was just so determined that that was exactly what I wanted to do, and I would do anything it took to get there. And that training, especially once I made the national team, was intense. My entire life, everything was organized in 15-minute increments.
And you lived an hour and a half from your training center, right?
That's right. Yeah.
One
so when I was
way back.
That's right. When I was 16, I had my license. My mom said you have to have your license to commute yourself because you're going
3 hours a day of commute.
Yep. So I'd finish my high school courses for the day and get in the car, drive to Toronto, practice, come home at about, leave 11 o'clock, get home 12:30, and then get up and do it again. And whew. Yeah, and man, even the intensity of the training. I remember, so that was the junior national team. Then I made the senior national team, and we would do 10-kilometer runs 4 times a week, just as part of our cardio off the ice. We did a lot more on the ice. We also had spin classes, everything else. And I just remember in the winter when I'd be on the treadmill, and I would picture, I won't say what other country, but I would picture a girl from another country that was always top 3 in the world beside me, and I would run faster than her. I would train harder than her, and I always had a mechanism to train harder, to be better. And I won, it was 4 national titles in a row, and then 2 world bronze medals during that.
World bronze medals.
I know, I'm still mad I never got gold.
Oh, I mean. Well, then let's fast forward. So that just is incredible because that's a completely different life than most live, right? From 4 to 24. Your experience, you're going to college, you're working, and you're training. And
that's right.
And also just, it sounded like that was your outlet, that was your release because you just had we all have just different dynamics. And what I think is really unique then is your journey in sports. Can you share a little bit of where you've navigated from there?
Yeah. So retiring from competitive sport at 24 is really a unique and kind of wild moment in an athlete's life, because then you look at who am I without this particular identity? And everybody knew me at the time as a figure skater. It's the first question you ever get when you run into somebody or are catching up with somebody. How's the team doing this year? How are you doing? And where are you traveling to?
Yeah.
And so there was this moment in time where I learned that lesson that we're valuable just as who we are, as a soul, as a spirit, as a person, not for our output in this world. Although I still love the output part of things.
Which is amazing. You have that ability to bridge and hold that, given your journey.
Yeah, definitely grounded in that. My next dream that I had wrote down, I was working at Lululemon at the time, and we wrote goals and put them on the wall. And at the time I wrote, I want to be a cross between a marketing director and a creative director for the Olympics. I put that probably about 10 years out, and then it was 5 years later, and I was the director of digital for the Canadian Olympic Committee and was leading a digital team and did that at 3 Olympic Games, Sochi, Rio, and Pyeongchang.
Check, check, check. Meanwhile, you're visiting, you're a big sports especially MLB, right? And you've loved your sports all the way, and that's continued to flow. Okay, so talk about just vision do.
It's wild too because I made this little list of companies I may want to work for. And then, that top of the list was Olympics. And then, after I was there for a while, I go, oh, like what might be next to explore? And I remember thinking, the NBA is the most innovative in this digital and new tech space. Let me put that on the list. And then that's what came along next.
Yeah. Because we probably crossed paths in like 2008 or 9. Is that maybe
Twitter
but just
days.
digitally,
Yep.
right? Never met until 2018.
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. I loved following your journey on Twitter.
And I loved visiting Toronto and getting the scoop. And you know what I mean? Like there weren't that many people in sports that were doing the things that you were doing. And we just started to connect.
Yeah. Oh,
and, yeah.
Like minds.
Yeah, we found each other
and
quickly. Like, what are you learning? What are you doing? So then when you look at the decision making, because I remember a few times you were deciding which job to take or what to do. Excuse me. And let's talk about your process a little bit, because I'm thinking about you were in the very first Renegade cohort, and we're at 11 now. And this vision and dream of I want to travel, yet you have, most people would hear that. And this was pre-COVID, so we're not talking like everybody was remote.
Yeah.
But you also had these, jobs that weren't necessarily fully remote in your career path in the past.
Oh, yeah.
So it wasn't just an obvious, but I remember you researching, like, how could I pull this off? Can you talk a little bit about how that went down? Because I'm sure there's a lot of unknowns. You don't just go do that.
Yeah.
And you did.
I did. I had wanted to essentially spend a year traveling. I had gotten the opportunity to do a lot of travel even with my role at the Canadian Olympic Committee, because after every Olympic Games, depending on what you had kind of banked, but what I had planned for and done is I traveled for 1 month after each of those Olympic Games. And I would tour the surrounding countries, and I love solo travel. You just meet so many incredible people when you're traveling solo. And I think that gave me a little bit of a taste for traveling for a extended period of time, because I'd be gone for 2 months total, a month for the Olympics, and then a month for my own personal travel, and to kind of like reset afterwards. And so with that, I was looking at, okay, the dream was to go and work within these Olympic Games and to, lead. There wasn't a digital kind of team when I set this dream. And then 5 years later, here we are, right, as everything evolved. And then I did that. And so I think every time you go and do whatever it is you set out to do, then it's time for that redream period of what are the other elements that are sneaking up, kind of knocking at my door, asking me, like, go do this, go do this. And so for me, it was kind of a pivot. And I had some, kind of a little bit of personal shakeup the year that I decided, okay, now's the time. And I thought, what a beautiful time to go and reset. And so everything kind of happened exactly as it was supposed to, and so wonderful. But it did require, actually, I walked away from my role and kind of looked at, okay, I have this open space, and this is what I'm going to do with it. And, enjoyed the holidays with my family, and then took off.
And I remember just like, go, Georgia, go. Where is she now? And then let's kind of go back. We didn't necessarily land on your current role, but would you say the confidence in sport and setting out to do something and then getting it done at a very young age has given you this ability to kind of surrender because you know you've always caught yourself. Like you will make it happen.
No matter what, I think with an athlete's journey, there's some foundational elements that you learn during that time, and you just have such a refined drive, tenacity, determination, dedication,
Probably trust in yourself.
Yes, and like pushing beyond any limit that's there, because that's what you're doing every single day, day in and day out at practice. Is pushing beyond any limit you used to have.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, to really look at, you know, what your life looked like day to day, and there's a comfort in knowing what it looks like, and to then, you know, kind of leap and hope for the best in a way. You know, no role. I had lost my father that past year suddenly, and so there was an element of healing that I was setting out to do as well, just from a grief journey. And even my partnership at the time, that, you know, went away as well. And so it was just almost these kind of core areas of my life that was part of what I was doing day to day and how I was spending my time. And now I had a blank slate, and I'm like, how perfect is this?
Yeah.
Which some people, I mean, I'm sure not everybody might have that same attitude, but I was beyond, like, I was over the moon in terms of the joy of being able to kind of set out, and then how beautiful from nothing in terms of what is currently in the space to what you can then add to it, right?
Yeah.
And create moving forward.
Absolutely. That whole you have to create space sounds so cliche at times, but it actually is very, very true. You can't even listen when you don't have enough space, right? You can't even, you aren't even open to what's right in front of you. So you're at the Cavs, and now you're the vice president of digital and innovation at the
Digital
Cleveland Cavaliers and the
You
NBA. Welcome to America. A year and a half after you get the job, right? And tell us a little bit about what you're up to now. And I have so much respect for, you know, the culture and what Dan Gilbert, I mean, would you say really it's all the way at the top?
That's right.
And for listeners who may or may not be familiar, founder of Quicken Loans, just innovator, visionary, owns the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's set a tone, and you've even taught at Renegade a little bit about that philosophy. So I'd love to hear about that too. And then some of the things you're doing now too.
Yeah.
And how we're going to come to a game. Renegades are coming to a Cavs game.
I love it. And especially with them doing so well this season.
Yes.
Oh, it's going to be great.
And let's talk about the game production too. But anyway, ops.
So Dan Gilbert, the Rock family of companies, and now Rocket, one of the largest mortgage lenders in the U.S., with a family of companies. There's a couple hundred, and there's something called the isms that are infused into all of these companies. And we even have Isms Day, where anybody from all of these companies come in person to Detroit and essentially understand these ways of working and the philosophy behind it. And it's not like some companies where they, you know, state a culture and then it doesn't really happen, or there's not the action. Every leader within all of those companies, including the Cleveland Cavaliers, Rock Entertainment Group, we have many franchise properties with our hockey team, our Charged G League team, Rocket Arena, all of our concerts and events. But infused throughout that, those isms ring true. And it's just, I haven't been part of an organization with this incredible culture. And I know, even talking to the CEO, he says it's always a moving target, always a moving target. Like you can always be better, always be better. So there's no stagnancy in like, oh, we're good right now. You just keep
never status quo. No.
Yeah. And I just admire that and have embodied that and taken that on and really, really appreciate it, because you truly have the entire company, you know, living these isms. And they're like, some of them, these phrases I love, and they're funny, like take the roast out of the oven. So simple, right? But you know exactly what that means. And so, you know, we have a project.
Ship it.
Exactly. Ship it, as Seth Godin would say.
Like,
it gets to a certain percentage of what we think is done. Forget the perfectionism.
like
Go.
done is better than
That's
perfect.
it.
Yeah.
And so what that alone, as an example, what it enables us to do, and especially within my group, is really go live with things that companies would spend years refining. Whereas as they are spending those years refining the strategy or trying to figure out how they're going to get the people to execute or whatever, we've already done it, learned a ton of lessons from it, and are taking it to the next level.
It's so Renegade. It is. It's like that experimenting, iterating. It's so smart. But at the level and the mass and the ability to do that with the size of companies is amazing that thread has been truly executed and implemented, not just talked about.
Exactly.
Like the yes before no, too, is a good one.
Yeah.
What if we said yes before no?
Where when you're trying to figure something out and you go, is there another way, right? What could that look like? Exploring it a little bit further. I love it.
It's rare to hear a sports organization, let alone the family of or the portfolio of companies, but truly have that culture, and also your genuine love for the company.
Yeah,
because it can be pretty tough in sports. Like you're either winning or losing. There's no in between.
Yeah, and it's a grind. It's a grind day in, day out, and with the sports schedule and. There are these elements that keep it, everybody's in integrity, and you're, as everybody, integrity alone, that's kind of one of those things I love to play with. You're going in integrity, in and out of integrity every moment of your life, always, right? But there's always that communication to get back in integrity, like everything, and doing what you say you'll do when you say you'll do it. And then having the team, everybody's committed to that. And everybody's communicating and everybody's leveling up.
So cool.
And innovation can come from anywhere within the organization, which I also love, just because it's in my title and for my team. It's
How do
coming.
you facilitate that? Because that is your title, that is your domain per se, but it can't be one person's, but you are overseen to make sure it's fostered. And
that's right.
How do you execute on that? How does that work?
If you break down even just what is innovation, those kind of micro level improvements, and that's another one of the isms, the inches are all around us. How can you make something an inch better, right? And so throughout the company, there's innovations happening day in and day out. We actually have a forum where everybody can submit different ideas. It can be as simple as, through the office that's so large. Like sometimes I have trouble finding, new people, finding where does somebody sit. And so something as small and simple as let's put row numbers in was submitted through this forum. Like just little simple operational things. But that's that inch to then help us, find each other better. And that sounds so like little and simple, but it goes from there to we're going to launch this new Cavs Rewards program, and it's going to use state-of-the-art financial technology. And it's not going to be something that's been done in the sport industry in North America before, and we're going to launch it for the first time. And it's, modeling after, an airline loyalty program or a hotel chain loyalty program, like the best of the best when it comes to loyalty programs. And while we're going to do the research, land on this concept and launch it within a 6-month period.
Yeah.
And then now I have about a different sports organization that I'm talking to about this program every single week in my calendar because they want to, also implement something similar or take what they're doing to the next level and whatnot too. So
I love that.
Innovation spans.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Female leaders, executives, founders, heads up, the Renegade Accelerator is open for enrollment. Renegades are at the top of their game. They're doing all the things, but usually there's something that they really want to do. What you do is you bring your why not now idea into this 8-week program. We're focused on curriculum, the Renegade mindset, collaboration, and accountability. We are all focused on growing our thought leadership, finding more time in the day by leveraging our presence. So it is present even when we are not. We are focused on optimizing our time and money and health. It is a mosaic of all types of women from different backgrounds at the top of their game, and the value exchange is exponential. Here are some why not now ideas that have come to life through Renegade. Why not now write the book? I want to get a board seat. I want to increase my speaking fee. I want to build a company. I want to pivot from corporate into entrepreneurship. I want a promotion within corporate. I want to move my brick and mortar company online so I have more freedom. I want to travel 25% of the year, but not see a dip in income. Those are a variety of why not now ideas that have been greenlit. They're done. What is your why not now idea? We're ready. If you're ready, head to renegadeaccelerator.com for more information and to apply. Well, and like with leagues, you would think, oh, the NBA is who sets the tone for that innovation. They might cultural and encourage, but it's the teams who experiment that really can execute and see what's working. And then when something, I remember this from working in with the Phoenix Suns, is like, then the other, 29 or however many, it's like then everybody else catches on, but it has to start. You're more of a speedboat than the whole league is a cruise ship. So you get it's still a pretty big speedboat though. But that's what's so cool. It's like, who's going to try it first? Yeah. There are 30 of you. Who's going to do it?
Exactly. And that's another element within the culture of the Cavs is they want to be first.
Yeah.
Across the board.
It was always like the Suns and the Cavs were really, it's true. Yeah. And you and everybody else is looking to you.
That's right.
Because that's become the norm.
Yeah.
Like you're so far ahead. They're like, that's exciting. So exciting.
I love it. And it's not just saying this is what we want to do, but investing in it, in, the strategy. We're not talking about the strategy for too long. You get that buy-in from the CEO, from the CMO, and you run, right? You've created this business plan, this concept, get the buy-in, go. And
With
it happens
action
quickly.
Comes clarity.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so, I think that's such a neat example of it's easier said than done, but as an individual that feels attainable. But with action comes clarity. When you have a big P&L and you have all these different priorities, it is a little trickier sometimes because that means something else is likely not. You can't just keep adding, right?
Yeah,
like you gotta keep.
Yeah.
How do you decide to what, like, is there an ism for letting go, or this is no longer a priority?
So I'm blanking on it right now, but essentially it's hyper prioritization at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Every day.
That's right.
Every day. I love that.
Yeah.
Not once a year, not once a quarter.
Yeah.
It's too late if you're doing it once a quarter.
Exactly. And so you are focused on what's going to drive the maximum business result. And the whole team is aligned with that. Everybody's on board. Everybody understands it. And you go. And then you iterate and iterate and iterate. Make everything a little bit better. Try something new. Like fail fast. And that's okay. Because everything that you have failed, right, is setting the groundwork for what's next. There's so many learnings in it. Yep. And so even with our rewards program, there's a program in the Web3 space that came before that. And that really laid the groundwork for us to like basically copy paste the rewards over to this larger scale. And so
imagine if you didn't do it.
It's
then you
launch and learn. Launch
Yep.
and learn. That's the
Launch and learn.
That's the ism, which it's probably my favorite one.
It's very Tony Hsieh, by the way. Like he would always talk to me about what the first iteration of Zappos looked like. He's like, it was so clunky, you could barely knew where to click. But he's like, get it out there and get the feedback loop from the customers going. And they'll tell you exactly what the next step is. But so often we sit in our think tanks and we think. And we, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love the hyper prioritization at the end of the day, every day, because that's going to keep you from going too far off and having to take that time to correct that delta.
That's right.
Okay, so there's a story and it's great in my next book, so everybody can read the depths of it. But can you share about your leadership style is very unique, and the example of one of the individuals that you were leading, you were their supervisor, and it just wasn't a connect on either ends, and your process in helping figure out the next steps.
Yeah.
So cool.
So I think this style started with my days at Lululemon while I was still an athlete. There's a big culture around set your goals. We're going to post them on the wall for everybody to see. And whether it's with us as an organization or without us, it's going to be better served for you and for us. And we'll help you get there. And so that was a philosophy that was really ingrained in me in my early days leading. And so fast forward, and there was a member of my team, and one day they felt comfortable coming to me and saying, I want to go do this other thing. And I don't know what that looks like. And it took a lot of vulnerability for them to come to me, but also a lot of trust. And essentially I said, okay, great. I'll help you get there.
And did you also feel it would probably be a great thing if they did another thing too?
100%.
Great. It wasn't
Yeah, you always notice where,
Yep.
you have a certain engagement from your team members, and then at a certain point that might shift, right? And the output looks different, or the way they show up for meetings, or their ideas and where they're going to take things. You can only do so much if they're their mind's in a different place, or their vision or their goals or their dreams are in a different place. And so it's better for them and for the company to have them set sail in what they want to do, right?
It's a favor to both.
Exactly. Right? And then they're happier, they're more fulfilled. Yeah. The organization can then rehire for the role and get somebody that is, this lights them up.
And you both have a little bit of a runway.
Exactly.
A heads up of, so then tell us how that kind of played out step by step, like tactically. So then
we had our initial conversation where they came to me and they noted that. And I actually got this from you, but I said, circle a date in the calendar.
Set a date.
That's it. Circle a date in the calendar. What do you want and by when? And I said, I'll help you as you look for other roles.
So smart, because you would know the date too, right? Like everybody's aware of the date. Yeah. That's cool.
And everything moved pretty quickly. They got another role that they were happy about. They moved on, and we posted the new role very quickly to get somebody into it. The person that got into that next role, my goodness, they're a superstar.
That's awesome.
And really just brought so much new energy. And then therefore, the KPIs we set, they blew them out of the water. And it was so much better for the business and the business results as well. And so I really think as leaders that, when it comes to somebody being happy in their life and their day-to-day and in their role and what they contribute, that is going to have them perform better and at their best and be better for the company.
I love how, for those who have worked either in a corporate setting or professional sports, you could compare for sure. There's so much protocol, and there are so many decisions that you probably had to make as far as, and this wasn't necessarily even in sports, but whatever role that was in. Do I have to put this up the chain? Do I need to alert HR? Do I need to? But what I love about this scenario is you knew what was going to be best for the company, was best for you and this individual. And you just did it, right?
Yeah.
And if you would have probably run that around and socialized that and asked for feedback, it would never happened.
No, I kept it to myself. I didn't tell any of the other, I didn't tell even the person I reported to. I kept it to myself, managed it with that individual, and we're better off.
And that's what a founder and CEO wants, is to have people like you that just take care of it and do what's best, right? Because they understand how inefficient that would have been.
Right.
And probably created potentially drama and distraction. And
yeah. It's ask for forgiveness, never permission.
Yep.
I've always been a rebel and taken that one on.
Yes. I love that so much. Okay. So can you share a little bit about your journey within Renegade? And just sometimes it's difficult to explain to people what we have going on here. And we have evolved over time, but how would you explain Renegade and also just your journey within?
Yeah, of course. So Man, it's been an absolute pleasure being part of it since 2018. And the way that I look at it is it's industry agnostic. So you get perspectives from people in completely different industries that are almost like your, I know you say this, but board of directors in your back pocket. And, you know, I've met people in their lives where they have like their personal board of directors. It kind of feels like that. So anything that I'm navigating in my life, there's support there to look at different perspectives for what can take things to the next level, what can unlock a new insight to then help me in that area. And then of course there's all the programming with the accelerator where, my goodness, how that's like evolved over the years is incredible. But there's aspects where I didn't know what I didn't know about investing, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And you're really looking at holistically every area of your life and leveling that up. And
Professional.
Yes.
Personal
Yes.
and professional, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I tell everybody about it. And they're always like, what is this thing? Because it feels like a little, you know, je ne sais quoi.
Yeah. And when you think of Renegade, what comes to mind? Like, what are you, that word can often feel like a rebel without a cause, but we've a little more like structure, or we're a little more vision and strategy than without a cause. I always say the good kind of trouble, or you know, positive disruption, but you live your life that way too. Not all do. But what comes to mind when the word renegade comes up?
Renegade is truly kind of knowing and embodying what it is that you want to create and doing it regardless of societal norms, expectations that others have on you. It is, you know, living to the beat of your own drum and being authentically you in that. And
it's like we were laughing, all of us yesterday, laughing how random it may appear that we are, but how similar. Because it's like a merry band of renegades.
Yeah, we were talking with Dr. Meredith about, you know, in high school choosing a stream for like the direction you're going to go into. And she was talking about her kids and how, you know, at such a young age, you're choosing a stream. And she, you know, she talked about when she was in college and that she just like kept taking more courses. So she kept more streams open. And I said, it was the same for me in high school. I made sure I had a few of the streams open so I could go in whichever direction. And she goes, that's how we get here. You get all of us who are doing, you know, living the top of our game in these different areas. But then we're like, so I was thinking, I'm also going to go do this other thing.
First year undecided for 4 years, but taking all the things to keep optionality open.
That's
so
right.
on that fourth year, I can do it. And maybe multiple things.
Yep.
Like, when I say multi-hyphenate or multi-passionate, I remember writing something. I think it was for the book about you. And I kept adding on. It's like, yes, you know, you have your title, but then you have your background of your sports titles. And then, oh yeah, she's an artist too. And what you've created and this and that. And you've been able to really have all of these different buckets. And you've been able to not be so tapped at bandwidth that you can't, like, seems like you're just flying pretty high at capacity at all times. But for people who think they can't be multi-hyphenate, or is that the term, or multi-passionate? And you're not flailing either, because there's those people who kind of just, you know, you've got your anchors. Like, what advice would you have to those people who just want to dabble in other things too?
Yeah, I would say lean in to what works for your energetic signature. And actually, it was during the pandemic, another renegade, Nikki, took me through human design. And I was trying this new thing during the pandemic where I was like, I want to be, you know, doing what normal people do, like, you know, winding down at night and getting a good night's sleep. And that seems like it would be productive, right?
Yeah.
But not for me personally because of my human design.
Right.
And so we zeroed in on being a manifesting generator, and she zeroed in for me that means it's somebody that needs to have at least several projects going on at the same time. We keep all of the balls in the air. Where you can literally run circles around other people in terms of the energy that you have to infuse into all of these different projects.
Yes.
And all of them are moving forward because you have all of them going at the same time. It would be a disservice to choose just one and lean in on it. And then when our head hits the pillow at the end of the day, you're out.
Yeah. That's my human design too. And I think that's something where, we're taught like focus and absolutely focus when you're in that thing and delete, delegate, divest, whatever you can. At the same time, sometimes I was thinking about last year, like that dance acrobatic, like flipping.
Yes.
That probably would have seemed from the outside looking in, that's a little too much. Like you're gonna tip over. And that's what kept my world like in balance.
Yes.
BS. But that actually was a really positive. It was not a,
exactly.
too much factor.
And I think sometimes, and at least I know, I'm wired a certain way with my athletic endeavors and life previously, or it feels like a different life. But the more that I add in or take on with my projects, then the more refined I get in my time management in the day-to-day to fit everything in. But if I have more time on my hands, it's not utilized effectively. It's actually when I add more in that I get more effective and can really do all of it.
It's clear what you want to do versus you don't, because I will make time for what I want to do.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And if I'm not wanting to get to it, I probably don't want to do it.
Yeah.
That's just the truth with me. Like I find so much additive, it gives me fuel and energy.
Exactly.
Even though, okay, so real quick, we're going to go here because why not? Let's talk about Margaret. So we share a
spiritual
advisor, yes.
That's how I try to make it sound official.
Yeah, she is a spiritual advisor, right? And we go back pretty far. And this, of course, was brought to us through Susie Batiste, who seems to share all of her spiritual assets and tools. But given how, you're in digital, you're analytical, like you are a data person, same here. Both that spreadsheet and vision board type of, I need data and analytics, but also we have this shared, and then we've got Margaret in our back pocket. Like after Lincoln was born, my first call was not to my therapist, it was to Margaret.
For sure.
Maybe every 6 months or sometimes a year goes by, but it feels that you have this strong spiritual anchor. Have you always had that? And do you feel, are there top key lessons from Margaret, who, by the way, came from Wall Street? Now she's a spiritual advisor.
It's incredible. I think there's an element of, the lesson of surrender and the magic that you can create in your life when you do surrender. That's something that comes up over and over. Other lessons as well is that when it comes to tools, and each of us, have our Rolodex of tools that we can tap into when we need to. If I, from an energetic perspective, was kind of repeating a pattern that wasn't serving me, I could, do all kinds of therapies to try to help me dig in and no longer repeat that pattern. Or for me, what I found is the most efficient is having a session with Margaret, and it feels like 2 years of therapy in an hour. Yes. And just the way that it clears my energy and, stops that swirl or that interruption or that block. And it's like this, and it really truly can be like this.
Back on track.
Exactly. Yeah. And it also, there's been elements of perspective that it's given me when I'm looking at an area of my life that isn't working as well as I want it to at that time. And it really gives me the perspective. And sometimes it's, there's elements around releasing the reins, because I do believe that there's more than you that has the vision and kind of that ability to kind of create new elements of your life. It's more than you. There's even like our coffee cups, everything's moving molecules, right? So everything is energy.
Yeah, it's not
There's
personal,
so much
it's
at play.
physics.
Exactly.
Yes, it allows us to bridge the science side with the spiritual side.
That's it. And so, energetically, I'll sit in, what am I calling in next? And then I'll, expand my energetic containers to be able to hold those new manifestations for what I'm calling in. And again, with everything being energy, we decided at a very young age, or we were conditioned rather with our unconscious mind of what life would look like and certain limitations and blocks that we have. And it's, at least 90% of our operating system. Yeah. And so it's running the show. And so it's kind of infusing, whether it's hypnotherapy, meditation, and then habits. That's like kind of a unique one where the best way to rewire your unconscious mind is through repetition, hypnotherapy, or habits. And literally the smallest thing that you're changing in your morning routine, whatever it is starting to rewire your unconscious mind and kind of take you in a completely different direction than you were going otherwise. And Margaret helps me with some of these aspects.
Yeah, I need to get my next session with her booked. And what I love is it's recorded, so you can listen back and you catch it and you hear other things. Or when you want to get back on track, it's like, I think there's just a beauty in being able to balance that science and spiritual side. And I think of it as like the quantum peak, right? Like a quantum leap, where that is the magic of that data, the real results, the allowing and the surrender. And that's the capacity where we get to fly higher. It's like you embody that, and it's so fun. So anything else that you wanted to share and that we didn't touch on?
That's a good question. I mean, I do just appreciate the impact that you've had. We're doing a feature actually, and I'll send it to you. I think it's in about a week or two. And I was filmed on this, and it'll be displayed during the Cavs game. It's Women's History Month.
Oh, cool.
And they asked about, who is somebody that you has had an impact on your life and that you really appreciate. And in the video, I say Amy Jo Martin. And I truly, thank you for kind of what you do in terms of, and I know you say like with Renegade, leading people, it's kind of like your black diamond to do, like leading people to be able to do difficult things. But I admire the way in which you have navigated that, and you do that, and you're human amongst it. We all are. But you're set out and you have a vision and you execute. And I think it's just, I appreciate the friendship. And you're a mentor and friend through all of this, but I appreciate that so much. And I'll send you the clip when it comes out. But I really talk about a lot of the things we've talked about today. I see you out there in the world doing that day in and day out. And it's nice to see that and then, almost follow some of the tools and techniques to be able to do the same.
Well, it's a two-way street too, right? It's like those Black Diamond Mountains, those slopes are the real deal. And we can't possibly have all the tools. So you're going to, crash and burn if you try to do it yourself, right? So that's why I'm calling on you. You're calling on other, people within this container. And thank you for being a part at the very, very beginning. Do you remember when we're like, let's give this a try, give it a whirl? I didn't know. I was like, my KPI is, do we like this? That's it. Like, that's all we want to know. Yeah. And it's just been, it's a cool ride. It's a cool ride. So thank you for giving and sharing, and
love being on it with you.
Here we go. All right, you ready for a little rapid fire? Wrap this up.
Yes.
You know the drill, right? Okay, what keeps you up at night?
Nothing. I sleep like a rock.
Yes.
And I do hypnotherapy each night as I go to bed. I usually fall asleep while doing it. But I go deep as I'm trying to rewire some things.
Can we just share that I go deep fast? Real quick, this isn't rapid fire, but the very first Renegade Summit, we're on, our fifth one? Everybody's in the audience, and I'm like, and all of a sudden, because we do go deep fast at Renegade, meaning we get into it. No talking about the surface stuff. Like, I just don't have interest, allergic to it, no time. I say, here at Renegade, we go deep fast. And I realized what I said that came out of my mouth, and I was like, and I look at Georgia, and she's like, and everybody else just kind of, and then that's been now one of our themes, and maybe that's inappropriate, but you know what I mean. But that's like where we are. We do, but it is. It's like,
why not have amusement too, right?
I don't know if this is going to make the podcast cut. Okay, but yes, it probably should. Okay, pirates or ninjas? Who's tougher and why?
Ooh, pirates, ninjas. My estimate is that you would say pirates, but I'm going to say ninjas.
Okay.
And I think it's because there's a controlled element to their striking. And like that emotional,
Right. Yeah, I can't disagree. They don't have as much fun, though. But that wasn't the question, was it? Okay, so what's one thing you find yourself learning over and over?
The power of surrender and of letting go. Things in your life are meant to come and go, and we should allow that. And that's all in flow in our lives. And then surrender, there's so much magic in that. My goodness. If you stop controlling every aspect of your life and you surrender to what's in front of you,
yeah,
it's incredible and it's powerful. What can roll out?
I love that. Like the credentials and the things that you've done in the scoreboard that you could look at. It might sound like a juxtaposition for that to come out of your mouth, but that's extremely cool to hear that that's part of your strategy.
I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for that.
Right. Okay. Favorite book, all-time favorite book.
The Surrender Experiment.
It's right over there on the bookshelf.
Michael A. Singer.
And then Untethered Soul, Michael Singer. We got to get him on the podcast. Okay, so let's go back real quick to Georgia, who's deciding whether or not she's going to head back and take this new role at the Cleveland Cavaliers via Toronto for a year and a half, or stay in New Zealand and keep traveling the world. If you could go say something to her in that moment, now you know what you know.
Yeah.
What would you have said?
Life just keeps getting better. Trust it and go.
Trust it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I so appreciate you, and I just love you.
Likewise, love you too.
Okay. There we have it.
Aw, that was fun. I'm like, I know I'm going to hit this mic. Aw.